Why are you yawning?
Because I have an oxygen deficit.
Okay, shut up. Are you ready to do a podcast?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I need to get over here in front of you, and I don't have enough desk space. All right, audio levels sound good. Are you ready to do a podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotta move this again. Okay.
Okay.
That's good.
You good now?
For the time being.
You good now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, thank you so much for being here. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello, and welcome to Learning the Law, a podcast about all things legal with a focus on current events, where we try to teach you things in an hour. My name is Ashley, aka Phoenix Nymphy, and my co-host, who is the man of the hour and has a pretty face, my husband, Ron.
Hi, everyone.
This podcast is purely educational and should not be taken as legal advice. This podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship. This podcast is based on our interpretation of relevant law. Any opinions expressed are the opinions of the individuals making them and do not reflect the opinions of any firm, company, or other individuals. Ron is a licensed practicing attorney in the state of California.
Since 1999.
Oh, man.
You didn't think I was going to say it this time, did you? I snuck it in there.
No, you didn't, because I was waiting for you to say it.
Okay.
We have some people in chat today. Hello. Thank you so much for being here, Nick. Yes, this is episode 6 of our podcast, and it all started with the Trump riots and TikTok.
Yeah.
So today our focus, so we actually have a question from y'all. Yeah. So if you have a question, any question when it comes to law in the United States, we got to preface that because obviously we don't know law for other countries.
There are some international laws that I could comment on, especially with treaties.
But generally speaking, it's U.S., it's America's United States law, because that's where he works, is in the United States. That's where we live. And if you have questions, the topics that we bring to the plate, you don't have to have questions about those topics. You can have a question, which this is a really great question. And I wanted to address it. If you have a question, ask. It does not have to do with anything in our the topic that we decide to discuss that week. We are here to help you. So whatever you want to learn and know about, send us questions.
Yeah. Criminal law, family law, bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Aviation law, whichever.
This one's actually a really good question, and I really, really liked it. And it came from Goat Boy. Can you secede from the country and become your own individual state in and of yourself and just live on your own and not have to pay taxes, etc.? There's a little bit more to the question. But basically, what they're asking is, can you basically be a sovereign state and still live in the United States? Is that
right?
Correct? Okay, so the simple answer to that is no.
Yeah. But this was a theory that people came up with in the 70s. That they weren't citizens of the United States. They were sovereign citizens unto themselves, and therefore not subject to any laws of any state or the federal government. And therefore they didn't have to pay taxes. This was a whole theory on how not to pay taxes. Yeah. And so when you see these cases arise in the courts, they're usually like the name will be like Smith versus IRS commissioner, Jones versus IRS commissioner.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because it's the IRS commissioner that has to bring the case saying that you're nuts, basically.
Now, I know who the person is that asked this question, and he's not asking that question in that regard. What he's just basically alluding to is basically trying to go off the grid, but still be able to live in the United States. Because let's be real, it's hard. Like, it's hard to leave and live in another country. You know, all those people are like, you don't like it here, then go to another country. That's not easy to do.
No, you would have to emigrate to another country.
Right.
Give up your citizenship and go somewhere.
It still costs money to go to another country. And since the Civil War, now this is information I know. Since the Civil War, there is no way, and I know Texas has tried this in recent history, to secede from the United States. They made sure of that because they didn't want another problem like what happened during Civil War.
You know, in a recent poll, 1 in 4 people that identified as conservatives want their state to secede from the Union.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yikes. Well, fun fact,
a little bit,
never going to happen.
A little bit more background on the sovereign citizen. The first case that you'll probably find if you look into it is called Johnson v. Commissioner of the IRS.
Okay.
And that's when the courts just kind of laughed them out. They just said, no, you're a citizen of the United States. You have to pay your taxes. Now, if you want to live off the grid and not pay taxes, there is not a legal way to do that. You can live off the grid, but if you have some income, you're going to be required to pay taxes on it. Now, the easiest way to live off the grid is to get one of these little houses, hook it up to a trailer, and just drive across country. You can park it at night, live in it. Be whatever. You are totally off the grid at that point.
There are people who live off the grid. And there are ways to get internet when you're living off the grid without having to use the cable companies.
Correct.
It's not the greatest internet. My friend Romina, she traveled. Well, obviously she hasn't, so that she's taken a major hit because of 2020. But a lot of her stuff were travel vlogs. And she had a thing that she would use that would allow her to have internet, and it would be based off of her cell phone. I'm not exactly sure how it was, but anyway, I know that it allowed her to have internet, and she didn't have to. She never had to pay for it. She just had to keep the thing charged, and she had internet on the top of a mountain.
Yeah, there's a lot of federal land out there that you can squat on for a day or two at a time.
Okay, we're not here to teach people how to live off the grid.
No, but I mean, that's not
illegal, isn't it?
If it's in a park where you're required to pay an entrance fee, yeah, that's illegal.
Oh.
By not paying. If it's just like cattle grazing federal property, you can set up a tent there.
But they can kick you off.
They can kick you off if you're not grazing cattle. But that doesn't mean they're going to arrest you.
It's not illegal for them to just like pitch tent for a couple of nights?
No.
That's interesting. So, man, now I want to learn about squatters' rights. So that might be another topic for a future episode.
Look at all the people in Alaska that live on federal land that is not their land into the wild. You know, he found a bus. He lived in that bus. He died in that bus.
That whole story, like, that's a sad. I recommend that book. It's heartbreaking.
He wasn't required to report to any authorities. He wasn't required to do anything. He would have had to pay taxes had he some kind of income. But I don't think he had any kind of income.
I think so. I think why a lot of people like to live off the grid is because of the fact that they don't want to be required to support a government that doesn't do anything for them.
Right.
Which is...
I can understand that.
Yeah. I also... I think that's kind of a coward's way out.
There are ways to live off the grid.
Like, I don't know. And I know this is really opinionated and really harsh to say that. And I get it. Some people just don't want to be around people, and that I respect. I totally respect. But our government sucks because people don't want to try to fix it. It's never going to be perfect, but if we keep letting the same people run it over and over again, nothing's going to change. And how do you get change? You get involved.
Right. Well,
and going away and disengaging from it.
Think of it this way. A majority of people have never elected the president of the United States.
I know.
Yes, Biden did get a majority of the votes cast.
It was the highest voting ever in 2020.
Right.
And that's probably like we have to go register to vote.
He got like 81 or so million votes.
Yeah.
There's 320 plus million people in this country.
Yeah.
81 million votes is about 25% of the people.
Yeah. That's why you got to vote. Because even with the delegates and all that bull crap, if you have 100% turnout, the government would look very different.
Yeah.
Very different. The people that get to vote are the people who can take a day off, first off. There are also people who have a way to get to their voter registration.
People haven't been purged off the rolls.
Right. Not everybody is aware of that. Make sure to check, because we do have there's a vote every 2 years, sometimes every year, depending on anyway, we're getting off topic, but register to vote, pay attention to your local elections.
Because if you miss a vote, they will try and purge you.
Yeah. And pay attention to whether or not you have your voter registration. I can't tell you how many times, I love my home state, but my home state got a lot of problems. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone into a polling place, and I've seen a Black person who isn't registered, but they are registered because they have all of their stuff in their hands. And the old biddies that are running the thing are just, they don't care. The old Karens just don't care. And I'm like, legally, you have to let her vote.
The problems we have.
I had to step in. Yeah, we registered Democrat, right? And we ended up.
Do you want me to give the whole background?
Yes, give the background on this is racial bias right here.
We lived in Lithonia, Georgia. Lithonia is a high majority African American population.
Yes.
Okay. We then moved
to a very poor area.
Yeah. We then moved to Smyrna because it was a lot closer for my work. Smyrna is like the exact opposite of Lithonia.
It's a little bit more affluent, but it's not.
It's not Beverly Hills. It's more like Irvine. If you want to make comparisons to California cities.
I don't know.
So, anyhow.
It's still affordable to live in.
I attempted many times to change the registration online. And you put in where you used to vote, which is Lithonia, and where you're voting now, which is Smyrna. I never got a voter registration card in the mail.
We put it in 4 times.
At least.
Yeah.
So the last time, I just didn't put down that I came from Lithonia. And wow, 2 weeks later, we had our voter registration cards in the mail.
Yeah. That you can't tell me that's not racial bias.
And the first time I went to vote in Smyrna, they don't let you take pictures inside the polling place, which is unfortunate because I wanted to. There's a long line of people waiting to vote. There is a table of people who have problems with their registration, etc. And everybody at the table that had voter registration problems were African American. There was not one white voter having problems.
Right. And legally speaking, we had to step in a couple of times and actually help the situation. Legally speaking, they can't tell you can't vote.
They have to give you a provisional ballot.
Yes. So if you ever go in and your name has been purged or whatever, you still are allowed to vote. They cannot stop you from voting. And that is very, very important. And I know that we've gotten off topic a little bit from...
One question about basically sovereign citizens.
Right.
Steers into voter registration.
Well, and this... Yes.
And the one thing in common is all those people paid their taxes.
Yes. So, yeah, Nick, it's a problem. It is definitely a problem here in America. Not so much I don't know about where we live now.
We're in a very conservative part of California. People think California is liberal. Pockets of California are liberal. They are high population pockets, but not everywhere in California is.
We happen to live in a conservative. I don't know how we keep getting. I would personally rather live in a liberal area because it's a lot more diverse. I genuinely feel more comfortable when my neighbors don't look like me. I know that says a lot, but I do. I feel more comfortable in a place like Lithonia at this point in my life than I do in a place like Smyrna. I don't, because the sense of community is so different. Like we knew our neighbor, well, we did know our particular row in Smyrna, but we knew our neighbors in Lithonia. We talked to them. We hung out with them. We literally shared sugar and food and stuff with them. The sense of community is so different and way more welcoming in a more diverse neighborhood. In my experience.
Generally, I would say that's true.
In my experience. When you're all white, I don't know. I don't like it. I feel uncomfortable when I'm in an all white neighborhood.
I don't feel uncomfortable, but I know that if someone who's not white moves in, they're not going to be as welcoming as if they were white.
I don't know why.
At least in Georgia.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. I don't know why I feel more comfortable in a more diverse neighborhood. And maybe it's because when there's a bunch of people that look at me, I look and think, why are there... This is why. I look at the neighborhood and I go, why do they all look like me? Why are there no other people? What is wrong with this neighborhood that it's not diverse? Because there's something wrong, which means there's probably a bunch of racist people around that have that. That's what goes through my head. Is why are there more people that look like me in this particular neighborhood and no one else? Something's wrong.
Well,
yeah. Anyway, we've definitely veered off.
Yep. The topic of the day. What is the topic of the day?
So the topic of the day, which I found fascinating. So last week at the end of the podcast, I was asking about, can you bring a civil lawsuit against Donald Trump and all of them? And Ron was like, no, you can't. apparently we cannot bring lawsuits against our representatives.
Right. And that was the nutshell answer.
That was a nutshell answer. So I need to know more about if I want to sue my representative, if I want to sue Donald Trump, how can I do that?
What do you want to sue him for?
Being an idiot.
Unfortunately, that is not.
Dang it.
Something you can't sue stupid people.
I know. But I feel like
I'd sue one of my brothers.
Anyhow. How, like, obviously, so we were on day 2 of the inauguration not the inauguration, the impeachment trial last week. So obviously, the result is, as predicted, everybody predicted the Republicans did not convict. However, y'all, these people have to be held accountable. How do you hold people accountable if you can't? The only way to hold people like that accountable, like Donald Trump, is by hitting them in the pocket. Is suing them.
Constitutionally, there's a clause. It's known as the speech and debate clause. You cannot sue a representative for anything they say during debate on legislation.
Even if they are spreading false lies and rumors and conspiracy theories that are literally harming people. Yes. The stuff that they are spouting are harming people.
You can get up in the middle of the Senate, call people out for being, quote, baby killers, and nothing will happen to you.
Words have consequences. How can you
There have been lawsuits for things said outside of the Senate and House.
Okay.
Now, in response to that, because our lovely legislatures don't like to get sued, they passed...
Here's the mouse.
Thank you. I need to get to...
Gotta look at the notes.
Yeah, the Westfall Act.
Okay, what is this?
The Westfall Act is a federal statute that says federal employees, and this is all federal employees, not just your representative. They are immune from tort claims arising out of acts they undertake in the course of their official duties.
I'm sorry, excuse me?
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me if he wasn't convicted and he had a decent defense team, they could have used this for his defense?
Yeah, they could have tried that, yeah. See, but this is something for a court of law.
Okay.
And the Senate impeachment trial is not a court of law.
Right. So,
and when I say tort claims, I mean negligence, defamation, libel, slander.
So you mean to tell
fraud.
Me these mother effers have created a way to keep us from being able to hold them accountable?
Yes.
The only way you can hold them accountable is if they hold themselves accountable.
Right.
That is so corrupt.
And now you know why, like, for example, Dominion voting machines did not sue any individual representative. They sued the attorneys. They sued Fox News. They sued commentators on Fox News.
My mind is blown right now.
But they did not sue someone like Mitch McConnell or Ted Cruz or Kevin McCarthy because they could just invoke that act right there.
So the next question then is, which Nick just asked, and which is my own next question, how can we get Trump or any of these people who are spouting this nonsense into a court of law to answer for their crimes? Because they're literally committing crimes.
Correct.
How do you hold them accountable? How do you get them into a court?
There is a representative who is now suing Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump for conspiracy in the riots, for connecting with the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, trying to hold them accountable for inciting the riot. I don't know if that will work with the Westfall Act. That's going to be up to the courts. The Westfall Act is not that old of a law. The representative is suing from a law that was created by the Civil War, and it's basically was used against the Ku Klux Klan during Reconstruction.
So, wow.
Yeah. Now
I know when it comes to trying to sue people, you have to prove some kind of damages in order to sue. So like in reality, like I as an individual cannot file a lawsuit against Donald Trump because the insurrection didn't directly affect me. Right. What are my damages? However, if I were there and I was a bystander, say I was a Capitol police officer.
Right.
And I was a part of this, could I file a lawsuit against Trump and all of that stuff?
You could file the lawsuit. May not be successful against Trump because everything he said
was acquitted.
One, he was acquitted, and two was while he was in his official duties.
My brain hurts right now.
Yeah.
Okay, from a legal standpoint, what would you do to try to take action? How would you get around this? Because there's always a loophole.
No, Congress, is very good at eliminating loopholes when it comes to laws concerning themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, they can inside trade all they want, but if you're Martha Stewart, you go to jail.
Okay, so
yeah,
you're not giving me any
I'm sorry, learning the law does not mean liking the law.
Jesus Christ, I don't like that law. Okay, so here's my next question. Is there any way you can have that removed? Is there any way you can, as a voter, as someone who is not in office, what can I do to work against that, to fight against that?
All you can do is petition your congressman to repeal the law. There is no propositions on the federal level that you can collect enough signatures to have a vote by the people.
What does that mean?
Well, for example, in California, if you get enough signatures of registered voters for a particular issue, it goes on the ballot.
Okay.
And that when we voted, that's what all those propositions were. 21, 22, 23, 24.
So, and this one in particular would have to go up on a federal level.
Right, because it's a federal statute.
Okay. So,
and it only affects federal employees. You can sue your state employees unless your state has a similar law. But if your state has a similar law and you are similar to California in that you can put propositions on the ballot, the voters could repeal by vote that kind of state law. But they can't do anything about the federal statute.
So the only way to have that removed, the only way to make that gone is by annoying your representatives.
Right. You can take the long route and try and sue that act is unconstitutional.
Which I think it is, personally.
But it has not been found unconstitutional yet. And you're having a Supreme Court of federal employees who all have this self-interest in not being sued, a ruling on this.
I don't like this. I don't like that law. I don't like that law. And there's no way you can go around, like, how do you hold Donald Trump and the other people accountable then?
The other people, you're talking about the mob.
I'm not talking about the mob. I'm talking about the people in power who caused this. How do you hold them accountable?
Well, first of all, insurrection is not a common law tort. You'd have to bring insurrection charges against them. Not in an impeachment type of proceeding, but in a criminal type of proceeding.
Yeah. And you can't take Donald Trump into court for inciting an insurrection based off of this, or can you?
Inciting an insurrection is not a common law tort. I'm talking about things like defamation, slander, fraud.
Okay, so what would you do?
I would bring criminal charges for inciting an insurrection against everyone who perpetuated the big lie, because that's what started this insurrection. Stop the steal. They're stealing the election from me.
So that's everybody from Fox News. That's over half of the Republican Party, including Ted Idiot Cruz.
I didn't indict them all.
Wow. Now, what if you have like a massive group of people that are filing a lawsuit together against this? Would that elevate it and make it a bit more serious instead of the individual?
A massive group of people cannot file criminal charges. The people of the United States cannot file criminal charges. That is up to the attorney generals or the district attorneys.
Wow. So class action lawsuits are only for
civil penalties,
civil stuff.
And most class action lawsuits are for common law torts.
And
assault is a common law tort. Battery is a common law tort. Negligence is a common law tort. Fraud. Like I said before, defamation, slander, libel. Now, individually, could you sue your representative for something that wasn't in their office? Yes.
What do you mean?
For example, say you're the neighbor of Senator Rand Paul,
okay,
and his apple tree is overhanging your fence and causing a nuisance on your property. You can sue him for that.
Okay, but that has nothing to do with the crap that he's spouting in.
Correct. Because he's spouting that as a senator.
Wow. Yikes.
If you could prove that he spouted all this crap as a private citizen and not as a senator, then you could go ahead and sue him. Unfortunately, he's a senator 24/7.
Oh.
Anytime he speaks as a senator. Anytime Donald Trump spoke, he spoke as the president.
No, Nick, a class action lawsuit cannot be used with crime. I don't. my mind is still on the fact that there's no way to hold them accountable for their actions. And there should be.
The Westfall Act tells you that I'm screwed.
There should absolutely be a better way to hold people accountable. What are the rest? I mean, I don't have any more questions. I'm really upset. Like this law just feels so corrupt to me. That feels wrong to me.
Yeah, because it denies your ability to redress your grievances to the federal government, which is supposedly a right guaranteed you in the Constitution.
Right, like I'm voting for these people, right? So like you are my representatives. I should have a way to hold you accountable aside from voting.
That's the only way you got it.
But the thing is, if my grievances are outweighed by other people who don't agree with me, like even if those people are crazy terrorists, literally lives are at stake. Like lives are literally at stake here because we continue to allow these white supremacists and bigots to run free. And
right now, the original Constitution, speech and debate clause, not the Westfall Act, but the one that said you can't hold any of them accountable for what they say in debate on the floor of the Senate or the House, did have some exceptions. And those were for treason, felonies, and breach of the peace. Which, you know, you could make the case that would be applicable here. However, the Westfall Act does not have those.
Man, so the Democrat who is which representative is it?
I'm not sure. The one that's suing?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I just caught that
right before
AP headline before the podcast. We will probably go into it a little bit more next week as to what he's suing and how he's suing them.
So what we need, what you're saying is we need more people like Bernie Sanders and AOC and all of them who are willing to stand up and actually fight for our rights.
We need some people to fight for our rights, yeah. But I believe the Westfall Act was passed during a time when there was a majority of Democrats in the House and Senate.
Look, I'm not saying Democrats are perfect, bro. They're not even remotely close. I actually did not like Biden. I voted for Kamala. I voted because that's why I voted for Biden. Biden was not my first choice in president, but I sure as hell was not going to let Trump get in.
I have very rarely voted for somebody I've liked. I've always voted for the person I hated the least.
Yeah. Because this whole let me vote for a third party person don't work. It doesn't work in a two-party system. However, we may soon have more than two parties because the Republican Party is breaking up.
Here's an opinion, not the law. What we are witnessing right now is the disintegration of the Republican Party. At the same time, we're also witnessing the disintegration of the Democratic Party.
I agree with you on that.
The Democratic Party will take a longer time to fracture because the GOP is fracturing as we speak.
Yeah.
But there is a definite split between the center left and the progressive left in the Democratic Party. And it's only a matter of time before it comes to a head.
Yeah. I think the only thing that's keeping that party together right now is the fact that you have white supremacists in the other party that are very prominent and very dominant.
Right. Now, I'm going to say this, in my opinion, there are some white supremacists in the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
but they are hiding themselves.
Yeah.
I don't think white supremacy is exclusive to the GOP.
I don't think so either. I just think their particular views and stuff tend to lend them towards.
They're just not afraid to let it show since Donald Trump came on the scene.
Okay, so Nick has a really great question. Could Biden overturn the Westfall Act with an executive order? That's a great question.
Executive orders generally cannot cancel out federal statutes.
Okay. Right, because like we addressed the executive orders in a previous podcast. Executive orders are so easily overturned and changed that they're just policy. They're not law. They're not acts. They're not statutes.
Right. They generally change the policy effect of the statute.
Okay. So in theory, then he could write up he could take an executive order and write up a policy that maybe adds in those exceptions to the Westfall Act, at least while he's in office.
He could try.
Okay.
You're going to find then that what he is doing is modifying the federal statute.
Okay.
Not just the enforcement of that statute.
Gotcha.
And you'll get that shot down as an unconstitutional executive order.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. This has been a very depressing episode.
Sorry.
More so than the others. Wow, our system is. And this is why we do this podcast, because these are things you need to know. Okay, so Nick says that I saw one thing one show that there's a split in both parties and there's 4 main political beliefs in the 2-party system. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
In the Republican Party, you have traditional conservatives that you consider to be center right.
They're your more moderate Republicans.
Right. And then you have these far right ideologues. And they are basically supported by white supremacists on the far right. Now, in the Democratic Party, you have your basic center left, which are your classic liberals. They will invite change, but not too much change.
Right. These are your old people.
And then you have the progressives on the far right who want radical change now.
Yeah.
They are generally younger than the center left.
They're not as jaded. Because I have a feeling that a lot of the center left probably started radical. Very few people are like Bernie and stay radical their whole career.
That is true.
And
you'll find a lot of the radicals and the hippies of the late 60s actually became your ultra conservatives of today.
Yeah, which is wild. But one thing I really want to note, and I saw this recently, is the explanation between conservative and liberal. So a conservative is someone who likes to stick to traditions, who doesn't like change, who likes the status quo, right? That's a conservative. When you look at that's what conservative means. You are conservative. You are conserving the status quo, essentially. You are keeping things the same. That's what conservative essentially means. Liberal, liberating, change. You invite change. You invite progress. So your liberal people tend to have more open mindset than your conservative people. Like if you look at the root word of conservative and liberal, it really tells you what it means. Like it really.
Right. And the modern media has distorted the meaning of each one of those terms.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
conservatives are now neo-Nazis and liberals are now communists.
And the thing is, there's nothing wrong with being conservative. There's nothing wrong with being liberal. The thing is, if it weren't for conservatives, you wouldn't have a lot of this beautiful historical stuff that we have in our country today. Like, for example, my mom's building was established in, 1816, right? Her office is a courthouse that was established in 1816. It is a beautiful, gorgeous, well-preserved, because they took years to, rehab it and everything. Beautiful, beautiful courthouse. Conservative people wanted to keep it, and I'm not saying the conservative party, I'm saying conservative people. You can be a liberal and also have conservative values and vice versa. You're not all one or the other. Everyone's actually a mixture of both. It just depends
on the issue for me.
Exactly. It depends on the issue. I believe in the right to bear arms. Now, do I believe in it to the extent that a lot of the conservative party?
Bear arm.
It's so sexy.
Oh, I know.
No, I'm not that far right, but I'm also not that far left when it comes to we need more laws and blah, blah, blah. I don't think we do. Personally, I think we need a way to enforce the laws that we have. And guns don't kill people. People kill people. Well, and easy access to those guns is, granted, this is another political issue, but that's my opinion.
You want to go into the Second Amendment next week?
We could go into the Second Amendment next week. In Canada, they have the Liberal Party, Conservative, and the New Democratic Party. Interesting. See, and
the parliamentary system is more open to multiple parties.
Yes. I think that, the U.S. is the only country. Every time we try to establish a democracy, a democratic government, the way our democratic government is run, it fails every single time. But the parliamentary system doesn't. It sticks longer.
That's because we have the Senate. And the only purpose of the Senate is to obstruct what the House wants.
Which we discussed last week, that we would benefit a lot to just get rid of the Senate and combine it with the House and just expand the House.
Yeah.
And just make it a parliamentary system. Essentially, that's essentially what it would be, is a parliament at that point.
Except you wouldn't have a president that came out of the House of Representatives, like a prime minister.
Right. We would still vote for the president. Yeah. Which I don't see a problem in that. Wow. This week's, I'm learning a lot about the law. Holy crap. I feel
like your mind has been blown.
My mind is blown like every week. Because, there's stuff that I do know just from being with you for 10 plus years, and the things that we discuss. But, this is not something we've ever discussed before. So, yeah, my mind is, our government is so corrupt. Wow. And with that, we're going to wrap up.
Oh, okay.
Oh, did you have more to say?
I was just going to say some observations on the end of the impeachment trial, since we covered day 1 and day 2.
Oh, okay. Yes. We can make notes on the impeachment trial, and then we will wrap up.
We predicted that he was not going to be convicted, as everybody did. I'm surprised that 7 actually voted with the Democrats to convict. But what galls me is all the senators that got up afterwards saying that he did incite a riot like Mitch McConnell, but he voted to not convict because he didn't feel it was constitutional, even though the Senate already voted that it was to have that trial. So he's trying to have it both ways.
And that, to me, if I were someone who was from Lindsey Graham's state or McConnell's state, as a Republican, I would be livid. I'd be livid that he said that.
Right. It would have been better if he had just shut up.
Yeah. Like if
he had to open his mouth and expose his hypocrisy.
If I truly believed that what Donald Trump did was okay and the insurrection was okay, I would be so angry that these people are saying this stuff. Like, how hypocritical are you to, like, you're a hypocrite. We knew these people were hypocrites in the first place. But
Senator, I believe Johnson from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, said it wasn't an armed insurrection, and therefore it wasn't an insurrection.
No, it was an armed insurrection.
Tell that to the officer that died. Tell that to the other officers who got the crap beat out of them.
They literally had guns on them. Like,
there were pipe bombs outside both the RNC and the DNC. How is that not armed?
That doesn't make sense to me.
Senator Johnson, you're an effing idiot.
Yeah. Doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, I just had to get that off my chest.
It's fine. It's fine, baby. I get it. And it's not, and the thing is, like, Democrats do it too. Democrat representatives also flip-flop.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. They do it too. This particular situation, not obviously, like, what we're dealing with are the extremes when it comes to the Republican Party, right? We're seeing the extremes really show themselves and come out. Like, yes, we're giving them a very hard time, but when the Democrats do it, we don't give them a hard time too.
Bet your ass we will.
But what happened, they literally, just lives were lost. And yet, because he is a white man with power, he is not held accountable.
Well, not only that, I think for the most part, the media and the people that are focusing on all of this have forgotten those lives.
It's not important anymore. These lives, it don't matter anymore. The sensationalist media, this is why I prefer NPR and PBS, because they don't focus on sensationalism when it comes to their reporting. They actually report the facts.
I get most of my news from the BBC.
BBC.
And I feel bad saying that, but
because
there's a bias to Fox, and I have watched Fox News, and there's a bias to MSNBC as much as there is a bias to Fox. They are
MSNBC,
the liberal side of Fox. CNN is the closest thing we have to trying to get the facts, and they have their bias too.
I think I like Reuters as well.
Reuters is good.
NPR, BBC, PBS.
Bloomberg has his bias.
Yes. Bloomberg, but it's not as extreme as like Fox and MSNBC.
Right. Those are our extreme
NBC
news sources.
NBC, CBS. So you have the middle, right? You have MSNBC over here to the far left. You have NBC and CBS kind of in the middle between a moderate and the extreme. You have CNN that's a little bit closer to the middle. You have NPR and PBS, in my opinions, that sit right on the line, because they question, like, if you listen to those interviews, they actually question, like, they ask the hard questions for both sides. And Fox News is the extreme right side, and like almost anything that claims to be Republican is very extreme, unfortunately. Huffington Post is also very, very far left.
Yeah, and I think Politico is too.
PolitiFacts is...
That's different than Politico.
PolitiFacts, if you want to know just the facts, great resource. Great resource. PolitiFacts does a great job at what did they say, what they actually said, and like it's how, like, is it true? Is it not true? Et cetera, et cetera. PolitiFacts is very great. Like, it's just, this is what they said. This is what they mean. Blah, blah, blah.
I like Snopes too.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, Snopes isn't. No, Snopes is up there with telling you if it's true or not. Snopes really actually does a good job. But yeah, so those are our recommendations for when it comes to news. Every morning we listen to NPR, BBC. Actually, I need to add BBC.
And I'll tell you the reason I like BBC. You get their slant on a story that doesn't come from Democrat or Republican talking points.
Right. They have their bias.
They do.
They absolutely have their bias. But their bias is towards their own country. Right? Like, I learned this in middle school. Getting my news from another, like, I used to read. Fun, weird fact about Ashley. I used to read an Irish newsletter called the Belfast Telegraph to get my news for the U.S.
Was that an IRA publication?
No. Belfast Telegraph is still around. It's a Northern Irish news source. But yeah, because the bias that was there was not Democrat or Republican. It was, yeah.
The Irish view of things. At least the North Irish view.
Yeah. Deflux says you like the BBC because it's taxpayer funded and it's not funded out of your tax dollars. PBS is taxpayer funded as well. As is NPR, I believe.
I don't believe Fox News or MSNBC is funded by the tax dollars.
But PBS, Public Broadcasting System,
gets a grant from the government.
NPR gets some. I'm pretty sure NPR gets some grants. But yeah. Anyway, that's about it.
I think I'm done for the day.
Yeah. Sorry for the. Why am I apologizing? It just is what it is. We're at an hour.
The law is the law.
The law is the law. It sucks. Thank you so much for listening to Learning the Law. If you like this podcast and want to hear more, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and share in all your favorite places. You can find it hosted live on Twitch at twitch.tv/PhoenixNymphy. Use the hashtag Learning the Law on all social media to follow more and get more information there. You can find Ron on Twitter at NecroKijo. And me on all social media platforms that I'm on at Phoenix Nymphy. If you have any questions, and they don't have to be about the topics that we choose to discuss.
Yeah, I would welcome some questions outside of these topics.
Any questions, please feel free to tweet, comment on, comment some where we see it, or email us at twolazydogsmedia@gmail.com. Thank you so much. This has been a Two Lazy Dogs Productions.
Bye, everyone.